Hey everybody, Jason Spengler here, the SanteeSwapper. Did go to Virginia this week and pick up a couple of collections. And so instead of kind of pre-recording an unboxing video, I thought in this case it might be more interesting just to kind of show you a little bit about what I found. And then also partially because of this collection, I've decided to maybe open up my collection a little bit so that I can incorporate some of the things that I got rather than just putting them back out for sale, which maybe is what normally happens. I wanted to go live because I wanted to show you this collection. I think it's really kind of a neat collection. I love collections that are kind of time capsules where a person collected for a period of time, and then when they left scouting, that's kind of where everything ends. And that's definitely what one of these collections was. That's the one that I want to show you. The other collection is kind of in the background. You can see duffel bag containers and stuff. That collection is much bigger, larger. I'm not going to try to get into that one here either, but I did want to show you this collection, which I think is pretty cool. So let me show you a couple of things here. I met this guy up in Virginia, and a lot of this stuff belonged to his dad, but then some of it is his as well. So this was a vest that I think might have belonged to his dad. There's a Area 3C powwow hosted by Powhatan Lodge, sorry. And this guy, I don't know if we'll see it over here or not, but he was involved in the Piedmont Area Council. And so that was Camp Monacan, which now, of course, doesn't exist. I believe Camp Monacan is now a public, I read that somewhere, it tells what it is. But anyways, I won't try to sue that. But what you might find interesting is this patch right here, a Spring Fellowship patch, 1972 from Koo Koo Ku Hoo. So this guy who owned this vest was a member of Koo Koo Ku Hoo, which is a merged Virginia lodge, merged in 1972 with Powhatan to form Tutelo. And so he does have over here a Powhatan Spring Fellowship patch and a Koo Koo Ku Hoo Spring Fellowship patch. So again, that's right around the time that those two merged. I don't know, that could be like the final fellowship events for either of those two lodges. Not sure about that. Then he also had this one. So this guy's dad, I bought it from the son, if you will, who was also an Eagle Scout. This was the dad's vest. Similar stuff. You can see kosher Indians, down here he's really big in Indians. But then he has some patches of things that he traveled to, because again, he was in Koo Koo Ku Hoo, but here he went to a fellowship at Blue Heron in 64, a fellowship down in North Carolina, Occoneechee, Camp Durant in 66, and then also back in 65 there. And then he's got a 67 World Jamboree. Flip this guy around the back, and this is kind of an odd collection here because you see, we got the 64 Jamboree patch, 69 Jamboree patch, but then over here, like here's one that doesn't fit. This is a contingent patch from the Mount Diablo Council for the 1960 Jamboree. Of course, not sure why that goes there. A Kickotan Fellowship, PIPSICO, which is this, again, Area 3C, a training conference they did. Peninsula Council, that might have been him. And then another one of these. This one was held at Camp Monacan, so Koo Koo Ku Hoo would have been the host of that. So that's a little one there. And then this jacket, which I thought was so interesting when I saw it hanging up in the guy's car. So this is all the red Boy Scout jackets, and this one has on it a 1972 Dixie Fellowship patch. And so if his dad was in Area 3, was it 3C, I think it was? This was Region 6, Section B, or Area B. So this was down in North Carolina. And I told him that I had been to Camp Barnhart in April of this year. I attended what used to be called the Dixie Fellowship. It's now called just a conclave, like everything else. Nothing on the back of this one, but I thought it was interesting. But I'm sure the reason why this guy's dad was visiting this was because his dad was really into Native American dancing. He was like dance advisor for Koo Koo Ku Hoo. And so he was probably doing that during that part of time. So this is the briefcase, kind of old school. You have a briefcase back in the day. I know someone recently in the Scout Patch Collectors Facebook group posted pictures of guys at an old traderie, and it was interesting to see how many of them had their collection stored in briefcases. So I don't know if this is, his traveling briefcase. There's nothing on here scouty. Like a lot of times you'll find stickers and stuff. So this may have just been something that he put it all in. You can't smell this collection through the video, but it is a little old, musty smelling. So that's unfortunate. But this nice bag right here, I can go through, and a couple of other things. So his dad earned Silver Beaver in that Blue Ridge Mountains Council, but it was because he had been a longtime scoutmaster in the Piedmont Council, and again had been involved in Order of the Arrow stuff. He also in here had sold me his dad's Silver Beaver Award that came with that, and then also that's his Eagle Scout medal. The guy that I bought this from, he got his Eagle in the early 70s. So there's that, and then you can see the guy's merit badge sash. Let me set those out to the side. And I'll kind of come back to this in a minute. Well, actually, no, I should grab this right here. So he had a little stack of flaps, which I thought was interesting. So obviously on the top, there's a Koo Koo Ku Hoo, which was his lodge. And these were flaps that he traded for. So there's a couple of Koo Koo Ku Hoos. Some of them are sewn. And so this one, as you might could tell with threads hanging loose, that one was sewn. This one was sewn as well. And then this one's a little bit more of a, there's a couple of varieties of these. There's not many different issues from Koo Koo Ku Hoo, but this is, if you sort of look at those side by side, you can tell this one's a little bit different. So I think this one's S3 and this one's S4, this one's S4, this one's S3. I don't have that memorized. But anyways, just kind of flipping through here, then you can see Tutelo Lodge. So that is the lodge that's going to become from Powhatan and Koo Koo Ku Hoo merging. This flap is their S2 flap, and he's got a couple of those. And then this guy is, I believe, the Tutelo S1. So this is the sort of first flap, if you will, from Tutelo. And he's got several of those, some of which have been worn. So that's a pretty good flap to come across. And then, because, again, I like this idea of a time capsule. Like this guy was collecting during this one, period there in the early 70s. And so these are the flaps he got. So he traded for a Kickitan, which would make perfect sense because he would have seen those guys at these area events. Again, a couple more Kickitan flaps. These flaps were not ever really that hard. I'm sure they were kind of, good to get back in the day, but I've seen, a lot of these kind of around. And then a couple of other things. I don't know if he attended any thing other than probably the Jamboree. I didn't see much evidence of him having gone to a NOAC, but he has a couple of other just flaps here. Nothing really, I think everybody has a Unami. Probably everybody has this a Megamech Whippet. But then look at this one that he got. So he traded, I'm guessing, for a Santee S2, which this would have been the flap. If he went to that 72 Dixie, this would have been the flap that people in Santee Lodge were wearing. And so it's kind of cool that he traded for a flap from my old lodge. And then this one from Hawaii. So again, that would have been at a conclave probably. So he did trade for a few flaps. But let me open up this bag and see if there's anything in here that would interest you guys. So with this format, there is actually a way you can leave comments and stuff. So I will check the comments in a minute. It's just, I'm kind of a one-man band here. So I don't have the ability to, have a moderator or somebody who's going to scan the comments. But let me sort of dump this bag out. And I have to confess, this might be the end of this bag. It might be, wow, ooh, boy. Okay, that bag might be going away. So a couple of really nice items in here. This guy especially, this is a jacket patch, the J1 from Koo Koo Ku Hoo. And so, this is the only jacket patch they ever made. It's a really, really good patch. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Oh, yeah, okay. So his dad had also spent some time in the military. And so his dad was based, in this case, in the Far East Council and got this neckerchief from the lodge. I think it was at Lodge, 498. And so that's kind of interesting. There's also in here, and all this stuff needs to be kind of cleaned up a little bit. I'll kind of get to that. Philmont neckerchief, which we saw the kosher Indian stuff on his sash. And then this is cool. Here's the 72 Dixie at Camp Barnhart. He has the matching neckerchief that goes with that patch. This is a pretty good neckerchief, not fantastically rare, but it's a good one for people from my part of the world. Then here's a troop neckerchief from Lynchburg. That was his troop that he was in Lynchburg. Then a lot of people had this. I guess Unami, they got around. So a lot of people had Unami neckerchiefs. So there's that one. Okay, here's the good one. So here's his Koo Koo Ku Hoo neckerchief. And again, this was worn. I mean, obviously worn. As far as issue number, this is like N2 or N3. There's a couple of different varieties there, but that's a nice one as well. Got the white sashes, got some garters, got this obviously would have been his, not his dad, with the red beret, garrison cap. See if there's any other patches in here that sort of stand out. Just again, that, Virginia area patch. And then this is a 456, so that's a lodge. That's a Powhatan Lodge patch. And then another one of those powwows like we saw on there, Camp Powhatan. Central District, there's some district patches. And again, a couple more of these guys. These guys are not very hard to come by. They're pretty common. Some neckerchief slides in here, which is kind of this interesting, I've sort of learned this. There's an interesting, in Virginia, there seems to be a lot of neckerchief slides that were made for stuff. So this one was just, one of those hand carved, and unfortunately the back piece is broken off. Here's some other hand carved ones as well. The son told me about this guy, which I thought I would show you this because some of you are going to recognize. Actually, I'm noticing here that this one has pop on the back of this slide. I'm guessing it might be on a couple of these. Pop, right? I don't see it on this one. But he told me that there was a guy in the lodge, and his name was Pop, and I'm guessing his name was Pop Odinger. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And so this was a beautiful beaded Vigil sash that Pop made. Now, the son said that Pop made it for his dad, but it seems a little weird to me that would have Pop's name on it unless he was really big into branding himself on stuff, or whether this could have belonged to Pop. I really can't speak to that. I don't know, but you can kind of just look. This is not, this doesn't appear to be kind of the gray owl design. This is sort of a homemade design that someone did, but I think that's really, really cool. Someone's pretty proud of that one. A couple of things in here. Again, sort of like I was saying with these things here, 1963 conference, which actually 65 conference. Sorry, that could have been NOAC because there was a NOAC in 65. What else is in here? A bunch more patches. See if there's anything else. Here's a spring fellowship patch from Koo Koo Ku Hoo. Camp Oki, which was Peninsula Council, so that's the council for Koo Koo Ku Hoo. And then Kickotan Powwow, where we've seen that guy before. Blue Heron, you're going to see a lot of, sort of cross-pollination Koo Koo Ku Hoo event here. There's a conclave patch, Melita Island. Now, again, that's Hawaii, I believe, right? Says here, the Area 11E conclave. That's probably going to be a keeper for me because I collect conclave patches. Again, Okinichi, we've seen a few examples of that on his vest already, which is kind of interesting. And then just a couple of other random patches and things we've already kind of seen. Like everybody, he has the reproduction set of the region patches. I mean, oh my God, I've got so many of those. Here's a nice Blue Heron jacket patch. So again, something you kind of expect from that time period. Let's see if there's anything else in here. There's a couple of other, he said these were handmade items that that Pop had made. This necklace right here, which is kind of beautiful. And then another piece right here. So, to me, those are pretty cool. If they're not, you see these kind of things kind of as like touristy items. Maybe, I don't know if they would have had them out there in Philmont where Kosher was. But, I don't know exactly who made those, but kind of interesting. So that's pretty much that piece of the collection. The only other patch in here, this was kind of interesting, this jacket patch. Like, I'm not sure the connection to Lodge 215 that he would have had other than it's just a really pretty patch. So anyways, let me set some stuff over here and I'll kind of tell you what I'm kind of thinking about with all this. And maybe this will spark something for some of you guys. So as you know, recently, last year or two, the BSA is kind of reorganized and now having, come from, I'm old enough to remember when we had, what was it, 6 regions. And then we went down to 4 regions. And now here in just the recent past, we have no regions. And now we have national service territories. And for me now, living in the Carolinas, I'm in National Service Territory 15. So I actually did go and get some prints made of these. I'm going to pull this up on the screen here and kind of blow it up for you guys to show you this. So, yeah. So hopefully you can see that. This is National Service Territory 15. And so for me, having grown up in South Carolina, you know, I collect all the lodges in South Carolina, but then I also collect all the lodges in North Carolina. And so if you look at National Service Territory 15, it includes that whole footprint, but it also goes up into Virginia. And so something I have been thinking about for a while is, I can't really zoom in, guys, very closely, but this, I don't know if you can see my cursor in this video, but anyways, if you look to the right where Tidewater Council is, Tidewater Council is Virginia Beach, Virginia, obviously. And the interesting thing about the geography there is that 4 of the North Carolina counties in the Outer Banks are actually part of Tidewater Council. And I posted on Facebook about this recently, talking about whether or not, you know, I should collect Tidewater Council, or whether or not that's something that, you know, people do. I know some people have said, well, if you really collect North Carolina, you have to collect Tidewater Council because you have those 4 counties in North Carolina. So recently I got a collection in, and it had some items from Blue Heron Lodge, which is Tidewater Council. I actually have those over here. So if you'll give me a second, I'll reach and grab them. So I specifically bought a collection from a guy who had a Blue Heron collection. And what I decided to do was, you know, sort of, again, fulfilling this idea that I'm going to collect all of North Carolina, I decided I would keep some of that Blue Heron collection. Now, his collection, he didn't have some of the old neckerchiefs and things like that, but the way that I have kind of defined my collections of these lodges in the Carolinas and now going up into Virginia is, I'm really only interested in kind of the older stuff. Like, I was lodge chief in 1990. I was a section chief in 92. So for me, it's kind of stuff that's like, you know, 1990s before. That's kind of the stuff I'm interested in. I tend to think that starting in the 90s, that's when we have this sort of like, you know, trajectory of patches and issues, like it goes off the charts, right? And so, you know, to me, things that are kind of older are the things I would want to hold on to. So for example, in this Blue Heron collection, you know, some sort of stuff like this, like some of these diamonds, pieces like that. You know, maybe I have to decide about event patches. I really don't know if that's going to fit into my collection or not. But then definitely lodge flaps. So like this guy has the collection I bought. This is, just make sure I'm not getting this confused. I did not pick this collection up Monday. This was, that's the other collection. This one I bought a couple weeks ago. But he has in here, for example, the purple water, which is the really, really tough one from that lodge. So anyways, I've decided I'm going to sort of keep this Blue Heron collection. So let me go back. This Blue Heron collection, and I'm also going to keep this Blue Ridge Mountains collection to a certain degree. And what I mean by that is I'm going to keep one each of the Koo Koo Ku Hoo items, and then the Tutelo items, and Powhatan as well. The other collection I bought did have a solid collection. This was kind of, you know, I went picking in the same area, I guess. And so the other collection I went and got did have the Koo Koo Ku Hoo items, and it had a fairly complete collection. So you've already seen that guy. You haven't seen that guy, which I think is like S2 or something. And then this round here, there's some event patches. another one of the rounds. And then also the flap. So this was the S1 from Koo Koo Ku Hoo, very hard flap to get. And what else is in here to show you guys? So then also had Camp Powhatan. So here's like a really nice Camp Powhatan, or not Camp Powhatan, Powhatan Lodge, neckerchief, the Powhatan jacket patch, which is a tough patch to get, a couple little anniversary patches from Powhatan, even this one, which is a little kind of a thing, but it's the kind of thing I would keep in my collection. This is a chapter patch, a really old, there's only one old chapter patch from Powhatan, this Patrick Henry chapter, that guy, and then things like, you know, their anniversary pieces. There's a couple of rounds in here that are Powhatan rounds as well. So, you know, like here's the Arrowhead, and here's the S2 from Powhatan. And I think if I dig in here, there's an S1 as well. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so cut edge S1. So kind of what I do is I have a collection where, you know, I'm just going to have, if you think of boxware frames, I'm just going to have like maybe one boxware frame for Koo Koo Ku Hoo, and one or two, probably just one boxware frame for Powhatan, and maybe just one for Tutelo. And I'll just kind of fill that up, you know, put the embroidered Koo Koo Ku Hoo neckerchief in there with the flaps and the back patch and everything, and that'll be it. That'll be my collection, and I won't really worry about going out and chasing down everything else that I don't have. So it looks like, for example, with the neckerchief, I think I have like N2 or N3 or something. So I'm not going to worry about going and getting N1, or, you know, it's just kind of a representative thing that, like, now that I am part of NST 15, I'm going to maybe expand my collection just a little bit and try to pick up some old pieces from those areas. I tend to not go on eBay and go click and send my PayPal money all over. I tend to try to, you know, dig those collections like I did with these, because that's just a much better way for me to purchase stuff rather than buying it onesies on eBay. So I don't know if anybody else would have that situation where now you are a part of a new configuration in the Boy Scouts of America, part of an NST, and you might want to consider expanding your collection a little bit further. I'm not going to go, again, crazy with it, but I've always appreciated things from those lodges in Virginia, and I do try to attend when I can the Virginia Beach, or now it's called the Norfolk Traderie. So I see some collectors from that area, and there's just a lot of connections between the North Carolina guys and those Virginia guys. They used to be in conclave together a while back, and so for me, I kind of see that as a natural fit. The other thing being, when I buy a collection, it's always nice if there's some things from the collection that I can add into my personal collection. And so in this case, you know, things like event patches and some of the other things I wouldn't keep. And so I could use those to kind of get my money back for the things that I am going to keep. So we'll see. I have a lot of sorting to do. Like I said, this stuff that's over my shoulder, I said over on this side, there's a lot of duplicates of some of these things. Unfortunately, not the Koo Koo Ku Hoo or the Powhatan, that I need to go through and kind of figure out, you know, what I'm going to keep, that kind of thing. All right. Well, again, I just want to record this quick video. This is kind of testing out this new service that I'm trying to see called StreamYard. And I wanted to show you guys the collection that I picked up. So I've got a lot of work to do, so I can't spend lots and lots of time playing on video. But since I haven't done anything probably since before summer camp, I thought I would go ahead and try to post something here and show this new collection to you guys. So thanks very much for watching. I appreciate it.